Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our discussions of 1970s disaster movies. And today, in that spirit, I would like to focus our attention, if I may, on another very special film. This is one that was directed by Jack Smite and produced by William Fry and Jennings Lang. And it has another wonderful, brilliant cast, included in which are, for example, Karen Black, Charlton Heston, George Kennedy, Gloria Swanson, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Susan Clark, Dana Andrews, Roy Thinnes, Linda Blair, Sid Caesar, Myrna Loy, Norman Fell, Jerry Stiller, and others. This is a film that is a disaster film set in the skies on an airplane. And it is a very exciting, suspenseful, and very entertaining film that has a lot of the stuff that is part of the fun of the disaster film, both the suspenseful and, yes, the camp and the over-the-top nature that gives a lot of life to films like this. This was a film that I understand was released initially in the latter part of 1974, but the title of the film indicates another year, and that year is 1975, and the film I am referring to is, yes, Airport, 1975. The plot, as I was trying to indicate, involves another disaster in the sky with a passenger airline en route to Los Angeles. And we have, therefore, a gathering of passengers and crew, and we follow, for the most part, or to some extent anyway, their various storylines as they begin to converge and intersect with each other. First at the airport and then on the airplane itself, and we see a little bit of background information of some of the characters in particular. I'm referring, for example, to those characters portrayed by Karen Black and Charlton Heston, respectively. And we see the various interactions, we see the environment, 1970s airport society and culture, as it were, and we see the goings-on with this particular passenger airline, and we get this sense of the various establishments of plot and circumstance and environment that lead the way to the disaster or series or set of circumstances for disaster that this particular airline will face in the sky, mid-air collision, and how these events will affect these people and how it is they will hopefully, if at all, be able to get out of this particular harrowing and quite frightening situation involving an airline in the sky. And will they survive? Will they get rescued? Will everything be all right, or won't it? And that is part of what is going on in terms of this and other films of its kind. This is Airport 1975. So already we have a number of things, I think, that are going on that are very exciting and very relevant to the genre. So first of all, we have this presentation of a wide network of characters that is part of the package when it comes to disaster films during this time. An all-star cast, as it were, with a wide array of characters from different places, different positions, and their intersections with the airport and the airplane in particular being such point of intersection. And so here we get some detailed characterizations for some of the characters. The Karen Black character and the Charlton Heston character, I think, come to mind almost immediately. because of their situation before their situation before the events of the film and during the film, and what happens to the very end of the film. And that's not all, of course, because we get other characterizations, other people that we meet, and this forms part of the fun of the disaster film, namely the type of sources of drama or melodrama that accompany the particular series of proceedings leading up to the disaster event in question. And so this is, again, another gallery of very intriguing characters, and we get the setup of things that will, I think, have a kind of payoff as we see the film progress. And so we get, for example, the Linda Blair character and her situation involving the need to go across the country in order to have a surgery. So she is frail and she is ill, and she has a guitar, and there are nuns, and there is, of course, characters and people like Gloria Swanson playing herself, which is a bold move, and it's a brilliant one, and it's, I think, also one that is in many ways a type of honoring the legacy and the legend that is Gloria Swanson. And so these, I think, are examples of where this film is really heightened in terms of its cast of characters and the drama and what they bring to the table. And that is, as I say, part of the fun of films like Airport 1975. And that's not all, too, because we have this set of circumstances that perhaps might be said, at least in some form or another, to be part suspenseful and part camp. Because while we do get these very intense scenes involving collisions, involving mid-air rescue attempts, involving parachutes, involving trying to steer an airplane to avoid certain immediate danger and threat, etc., and things of that nature, we also get situations that could be described as being somewhat heightened, elevated entertainment or camp. And that's not a bad thing, too. That is, in fact, quite a good thing, I think. And so we have all of the elements there combined in this, I think, balancing act. And whether you buy it or not, of course, it's up to you as the viewer, but I'd like to suggest that then part of the fun of disaster films like this is to see not just the actual threat or danger that causes the suspense, but also to see how the characters not just react to each other and to the events, but also what their situations bring to the overall entertainment proceedings, and all those little details that give it that sense of the over-the-top campiness or camp quality that I think bring this film to the status that it is. So this is, I think, one of the great strengths of Airport 1975. And part of that is, I think, the way in which this film seems to be connected to the earlier film Airport, and how it might be connected to, say, later films in the so-called Airport series. Now, I don't want to speak too much about the later films because I might speak about those in future videos in this YouTube series, so please stay tuned if you are interested. But for now, let me focus in on just very general possible connections between this film and the earlier Airport film, because this is Airport 1975, so it is marketed as being a sequel to Airport from 1970. But where are those sequel connections, perhaps? Because it seems like we have a whole set of new characters. It seems like there's the connection of the airport and the airplane, but that seems to be it as far as any direct connections. But there is one very special connection, and that is, of course, the character that is Petroni, Joe Petroni, played by George Kennedy. And because of his appearance here, and because it is George Kennedy, this character is achieving a type of legendary mythic status in the context of 1970s disaster films. And part of that mythic status is due to his function and his role in this film, Airport 1975. So the myth and the legend of Joe Petroni was born in the earlier film, and we get a presentation of his character, and we understand that there are actually quite different details as far as his biographical information. than what we might have seen, say, in Airport from 1970. And so that already lends to a really interesting sense of intrigue as far as what Petroni's life was between Airport and Airport 1975, what happened that led to where he was at the start of this particular film. And so all this type of world-building intrigue, I think, is very possible. And that's also part of the fun, I would suggest, in films like Airport 1975, and then other films perhaps to follow. And as I say, we'll get to those perhaps in future videos. But this is, as I say, in that way, the binding quality, which the connective tissue, as it were, between the earlier Airport film and Airport 1975. And so perhaps we might see the similar type of connective tissue integrity as we go along. But for now, this is to say that you don't need to see the first Airport film in order to understand what's happening in Airport 1975 and vice versa. They are, I think, in and of themselves, independent stories from each other, but still it's fun to think of the possibilities and, the, as I say, the world building. But whatever your stance is, my friends, when we come back to this particular film, Airport 1975, it is a lovely cocktail of, or a cocktail mixture of camp and suspense entertainment. The disaster film is well represented in those terms by this film, Airport in 1975. And so when you watch it, you might think that some of the events and some of the situations are really over the top and perhaps to the point of being too ludicrous to be believed. But if that's the situation for you, that's okay. But I think it still has a sense of being grounded from a certain point of view. And I think that is helped by the strength of some of the characters. I should also point out Karen Black's character, and her performance is really wonderful in leading us and grounding us and keeping our attention focused on the actual threat and danger. And I like her character too because it also is one that is, I think, expressing a lot of maybe doubt and a lot of sensitivity as far as her personal situation, as we see early on. And she's trying also to deal with the situation, various situations in her life. And in this context, too, we see a little bit of what the culture was like in the 1970s and how maybe she was treated by some of the people around her. But one actual strength of this film is from this characterization as portrayed by Karen Black and others. So the performances, the characterizations, and the disaster element are well presented. And also we have the sense of the unbelievable and the outrageous and the perhaps camp, laugh out loud type of funny nature to this film. That forms, I think, a wonderful balance of entertainment blends in this disaster film cocktail, which is called Airport 1975. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.